sorry, I'm going steady now. Because he liked me.
Mm-hmm.
He was a nice guy.
Mm-hmm.
Was that the guy from Idaho?
That was the guy from Boise, Idaho. That
I liked him.
he was in the student government.
He was a nice guy.
Shall I tell him how I met him?
Yeah.
I got lost in the basement of the student. What was that building called? Where the
Wilkinson?
No, it wasn't built then. It was just to have the student offices. And I got turned around, and here I was in the bottom of that basement. I couldn't find my way out. And he came out of one of the offices, and he was just a really nice kid. And we dated 2 or 3 times after that. And
Oh, that's
he was
sweet.
a nice guy. Yeah.
What was the? Wasn't there another friend of? Was it someone from Dad's friend from Barstow that was hustling you, too?
We won't mention his name, but there was somebody hustling her. We had a chart at home at this house that we were living in, down the girl's name that we'd dated, and we'd put how many points. 10 was really great, down to, fair, and that there. And so I put Evie down as really low, because I didn't want anybody to mess with her.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, I had
And
a
that
2 or
Bruce,
something.
he knew what I did, so he started trying to hustle her.
That's genius.
Yeah.
But I went out.
But and Bruce was a nice guy, but
Yeah.
there was no attraction.
What was that story of Thanksgiving? What was that one?
Oh, that I well, I was marching with Courettes, and the big BYU U of U football game was a Thanksgiving game, televised, and that was really a big deal in 1953.
But
to have television, and my mom and dad sat and watched television the whole time, never did see me marching.
Tie that in with the Bruce Honey thing.
Oh yeah, and
Yeah.
so I had to stay at school
Right.
to march, and Jack was going to go home to Barstow and be home for Thanksgiving. And so Bruce was there one day, and we were talking about it, and he said, "Well, Jack, go on home. I'll take good care of her while she's gone." He didn't go home. He stayed. And he had every intention of going home. In fact, your mother was disappointed that you didn't go home. So anyway, Jack wouldn't go home, and his mother was really disappointed. I think Arlen went home. Arlen, his brother, went home, because he was there at the
But
wedding.
he was sticking around to take care of you.
Yeah, he didn't go, and I was so glad, because I didn't want to be all alone, because all my roommates were going home, and all the kids I knew were going to Idaho that I'd met years before, and I couldn't go. And so instead, he came and watched the football game, and we lost. And I marched, and everybody was gone, and we hadn't planned anything, so we just went to China City, was it?
And they had
Noodles.
noodles.
We had no turkey. They didn't have any such.
Because I wasn't playing football then, because I came back from my mission, and the Army was right on my tail.
Yeah, I was wondering why you weren't playing in that game.
And so I played my freshman year, but and I was still a freshman. I was a third quarter freshman when I came back from my mission.
Yeah, you hadn't finished completely your
finished.
first year.
Anyway, I figured I was going to have to go in the Army real fast. Instead, I joined the AFROTC and decided to train for being a pilot. And
They kept him a few months.
then they gave me a physical and said, "You can never pass the flight instructor." And I didn't want to be a
Mechanic.
crown crew man. So I dropped out. Where'd we go, Ev? Back to Barstow?
You mean after we were married?
Well,
No.
we were both going to school even after we were married. We didn't go back to school then.
Well, no, that wasn't really the way.
How did you guys get engaged? How did that happen?
I can't really remember, except I remember where. In the back of the building, by the garbage cans of the apartment.
We were in the car.
Yes, we were in his car,
and
probably with the top up because it was cold.
And I said, "Will you marry me?"
And before you could even get it out.
She said yes.
Yes, yes, yes.
You guys
I was really excited.
You just
I
knew
thought
you wanted to.
Yeah, I
We
wanted
planned
to be
it
with him
fairly
forever.
soon.
That was in with how many months since you met that first
was
night?
About after Thanksgiving. About, wasn't
3 or
it?
4 months.
No.
2.
well, it was in December that we really made, you know, for
Yeah.
sure we wanted to get married.
So
it's-
2 months after you met.
Yeah, probably between Thanksgiving maybe. It wasn't before Thanksgiving.
Wow.
But anyway, so what comes next?
Oh, what was your first kiss? You told us that one.
Yeah.
What is it?
Well,
That was
I
probably
was
the third or fourth date.
at least the third or fourth or fifth date. He just would never kiss me, and so I really was feeling like, why are we dating? He doesn't like me. Even then,
Mhm.
you know, because I couldn't understand. And then
Well,
we
we were always
sitting-
with couples. We were always
yeah,
going
we did a lot of
to
things with people.
movies with other people.
Yeah. And so we were sitting up at Bridal Veil Falls. It was still pretty. It was, you know, it wasn't a real late winter, and it was still pretty up there. It was cold. But we're just sitting looking at the falls, and then we
It
drove on
wasn't,
down.
it wasn't the falls.
First, it was the
Oh,
falls.
yeah,
And
we
then we
looked-
watched for a while, because that falls was so
So we went up
pretty.
the canyon further, and
Um,
I pulled off side the road at a view
Yeah.
to see the lake.
Viewpoint.
Deer Creek Lake?
Well, yeah, Deer
Yeah.
Creek.
So the reservoir there.
And
We were looking, it was so pretty, and we just both kind of turned our
I
heads.
think it was an accident. I was sitting
Do you want
like
us to
this.
show you?
I was sitting like this here.
Yeah, we were looking at the
Look
lake.
at that, and we
And we were
both
looking, and we
turned.
both turned, and now we were both.
Only it was a better kiss than that.
Thank goodness. You learned finally.
That's
Finally
right,
learned.
'cause you taught Dad how to kiss.
Well, he says that.
She was just
I was just a
very
good
soft kisser.
Right.
You know, some women are not
kisser.
soft.
Had the lips for it.
She was soft.
But very few women, nobody was trying to make big lips then
Mm-hmm.
by going and getting the shots that they get in their lips.
Yeah.
So,
Anyway, she was a good
anyway, so
lover.
we did that. And then we dated, you know, for quite a while.
Mhm.
But we knew that we wanted to get married, and we didn't set a date when we decided to get married. Meanwhile, and we didn't tell you this earlier, I hadn't met his mother or his father, and he hadn't met my parents. We didn't know each other's family at all. And one of his uncles in Ogden wanted to go on a mission, and so he invited me to go to the family with church for his farewell. And so I did, and we drove to Ogden, and his father was there. He came from Barstow for his brother's farewell, and I met Lamar then. And he was, I mean, I was really impressed with him because he looked like Clark Gable.
Oh,
Can you imagine that family
Yeah.
with Elvis and Clark in it? And really nice people. But I remember what Jack said to his dad, and then I felt bad because I didn't like what his dad said back to you. He said, "Where's Mom? Did she come?" He said, "Oh, no. She had to do her dancing all the time." You know, he hated her teaching dancing. His father
Yeah.
did.
Mm.
And she would have come with me, but she couldn't, you know, and I thought, uh-oh, there's something wrong here, but I never said anything about it. But he didn't like her having the dance school. But it was really nice family, so I met some of the relatives, and they were nice people. So I kind of knew that he was from a good family.
Mhm.
And then Dad, what did you think of?
My dad,
Yeah.
mother,
Mom, Dad.
tell him that experience when we met you
I went to Downey
at Christmas time.
Christmas time and met Gina and Eva's parents, Evie's parents, and they took us to to Knoxbury Farm
Yeah, Knoxbury Farm for
Mhm.
dinner.
for dinner. Yeah,
That was a big
That
deal.
was the first time.
And what did my dad do? I
He'd
could have.
do.
I'd already warned my dad. You know, this guy is a neat guy, and has really good manners, and he has a family that, you know, uses manners, Dad. And I really gave him the word, because my dad would do
He was
anything.
a character.
I mean, he would take his teeth out if he thought it was funny, you know, at meals. And so, tell him what he did.
What did he do?
You don't remember? We were sitting there waiting for our order, and they brought in pickles,
That's right.
and then they brought in rolls with strawberry jam.
Jam, I remember
And so
Knott's
my
Berry
dad did
Farm jam.
Knott's Berry Farm jam.
Right?
that. Yeah.
And what happened?
Gene, what did he do? I can't remember that.
Took a pickle, slice of pickle, and what did you put on it?
Jam.
Yes,
And
at the
so-
very beginning.
And so I reached over and got the pickle, put jam on it. And
That's what,
He decided that I was okay if I do the same thing he would.
because I had warned him. I'd really warned him not to do those kind of
Yeah,
things.
just
In
weird.
front of Jack. Weird things.
Yeah,
So of course he did it.
that's
And-
fun.
Yeah.
And you followed the lead.
Then
Good
I watched
man.
my dad, and I was dying inside. And pretty soon here Jack was eating pickle with
Same
strawberry
thing.
jam on too. And my dad did that deliberately. He told me, he said, he's a pretty good guy.
We got
That's
along good
Yeah.
with her mom and
Dad,
dad, all the years
yeah.
they were around.
Yeah, they always
They
appreciated
never
you.
interfered with anything. In fact, they were always on my side.
And his mom was always on my side, no
Yeah,
matter what
that's true.
happened.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's true.
But, so then they met us at Christmas time, and so we set a date in March.
Mhm.
But meanwhile, Arlen had been in the service, and he had met Shirley, his wife-to-be, before he went in the service, between his mission and going in. And so when he was released from the service, they were going to get married, and so they got married. No, it wasn't when he was released, he was home for furlough in February. This was December and January, and in February his family came to Pleasant Grove, and she and Arlen were married, Shirley and Arlen, at
Yeah.
that time. Meanwhile, he had given me a ring, he found a beautiful ring. Do you want to hear that story?
You helped me
Yeah.
find it.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
said, but he didn't tell me that. He said, let's go look for rings. And so we went to Salt Lake and looked in jewelry stores, and he took me to a jewelry store he really liked.
McKay's Jewelers.
Uh-huh.
Mm.
And they brought this tray of rings out and said, do you like any of these? Well, I really did. I really liked one really a lot. But it was big and it was expensive. And I said, yeah, I really like this one. And I pointed to a little one, a little tiny diamond.
Mhm.
And I mean, it was very, very sweet. It wasn't, you didn't, you could see the diamond. It was that big. And there were some littler than that. So I said, I really like this one, Jack. So he said, okay, I just wanted to see if you found any like me. He said, yeah. And so we left there and came home. And how did you get that ring?
I look back.
That's right. So we just looked that day, and we went back, and he took me home. And then when he asked me to marry him, you had that ring.
I had the ring that I knew you really liked.
The big one.
The big one.
Because for the next 2 years, you helped me pay for it after we got married.
Yes.
How did you know she liked it?
It was just,
She really
it was
liked
my
it. You
ring.
could tell she was
Do you
looking
remember
at it.
my ring?
Oh, I love your
But
ring.
she
Yeah.
just,
And so when he brought that ring out, and I said, how'd you know I like this ring? He says, oh, I just knew you liked that one. You didn't like that other one. And I really tried hard not to show any attention to the one I really liked,
Mhm.
because it was too expensive.
Huh.
I wasn't used to that,
Yeah.
and so there he had my ring.
So you'd set a date at this point now that you
Oh,
had the rings?
so we had set a date,
Yeah.
and he'd given me the ring in March. Meanwhile, they had their wedding in February. Arlen and Shirley did, and so I went to the wedding, and Shirley had asked me. We didn't know each other, but she'd asked me if I'd like to help some way. So I think she had me at the guest book, there at that table. I was there, and I had a pretty dress on and everything. We came home from that wedding, and Jack was acting